The indie rock world is mourning the devastating loss of Tim Very, longtime drummer of Manchester Orchestra, who has died at the age of 42. The band confirmed the heartbreaking news on February 14, sharing that they were in absolute disbelief over the sudden passing of their friend and bandmate. For fans, fellow musicians, and the tight-knit indie community that embraced him for more than a decade, Tim was more than just a drummer. He was the pulse of a band whose sound has defined a generation of emotionally raw, expansive alternative rock. His passing leaves an unmistakable silence, one that will be felt in venues, studios, and headphones around the world. A life built on rhythm. Born on November 22, 1983, in Pensacola, Florida, Tim Very grew up in a household where music wasn't just background noise, it was part of daily life. His father was a drummer, and from an early age, Tim found himself drawn to the drum kit. Unlike many musicians who begin formal training as children, Tim's journey was more organic. His love for rhythm developed through curiosity, repetition, and an instinctive feel for groove. He often cited Dave Grohl as an influence, not just for technical skill, but for emotional intensity. Like Grohl, Tim believed drumming was storytelling. It wasn't about flash or speed alone, it was about feeling. That philosophy would become a defining trait of his playing style. Friends recall that even in his teenage years, Tim had a natural ability to make music feel alive. He practiced tirelessly, learned songs by ear, and focused on dynamics, understanding when to explode with power and when to hold back. That sensitivity would later become one of his greatest strengths. Finding his place in Manchester Orchestra, Tim joined Manchester Orchestra in 2011, stepping into a band that was already gaining momentum in the alternative rock world. Formed in Atlanta in 2004, the group had built a loyal following thanks to their emotionally charged songwriting and ambitious soundscapes. When Tim came on board, he didn't just fill a position, he elevated the band's dynamic. His first major project with the band was Simple Math, a record that showcased intricate arrangements and cinematic ambition. Tim's drumming added both muscle and nuance, helping anchor songs that swelled between quiet vulnerability and explosive catharsis. From there, he became a permanent and essential part of the lineup, contributing to Simple Math 2011, Cope 2014, A Black Mile to the Surface 2017, The Million Masks of God 2021, The Valley of Vision 2023 EP. On Cope, he brought a heavier, driving force that matched the album's aggressive tone. On A Black Mile to the Surface, widely considered one of the band's most acclaimed releases, his drumming was textured and deliberate, supporting the album's introspective and atmospheric themes. Songs like The Golden Die, Know How to Speak demonstrated his ability to balance restraint and intensity. He understood that sometimes the most powerful moment in a song isn't the loudest one, it's the pause before the impact. Bandmates often described Tim as a songwriter's drummer. He never overplayed. Instead, he listened deeply and served the composition. That approach earned him respect not only within the band but across the indie music scene. More than a bandmate, while his work with Manchester Orchestra defined much of his public career, Tim Very was also a session musician, collaborator, and creative entrepreneur. He co-founded a Georgia-based production company, creating space for artists to experiment and grow. He was known for mentoring younger musicians, offering advice, and encouraging creativity without ego. Those who worked with him consistently described the same qualities: kindness, humor, humility, and an infectious laugh in their tribute. Manchester Orchestra called him the most beloved human being we were lucky enough to know in this life. They emphasized that while Tim loved making music, nothing meant more to him than his family. He was a devoted father and partner, roles he cherished deeply. Friends say he spoke often about balancing touring life with home life, and he made every effort to be present for the people he loved. The sound that defined an era. Orchestra's rise coincided with a wave of emotionally driven indie and alternative bands that reshaped rock music in the 2010s. Alongside peers like Brand New and Death Cab for Cutie, the band carved out a space where vulnerability and grandeur could coexist. Tim's drumming was essential to that balance. He wasn't flashy for the sake of attention. Instead, he built atmosphere. His fills were purposeful. His crescendos felt earned. In live performances, he brought a physical intensity that energized crowds while remaining locked in with the emotional tone of each song. Fans frequently commented on how his playing felt alive, as if every beat carried intention. Concertgoers remember watching him behind the kit, focused, expressive, fully immersed. Even in massive venues, he made performances feel intimate. An outpouring of grief when news of Tim's death broke. Social media filled with tributes. Fans shared concert photos, favorite drum moments, and personal stories about meeting him after shows. Many described him as approachable and genuine, the kind of musician who stayed to talk, sign autographs, and thank fans for coming. Fellow drummers praised his musicality. Indie artists shared condolences. The Atlanta music community, where Manchester Orchestra formed and thrived, expressed collective heartbreak. The band has not publicly disclosed the cause of death, and they have asked for privacy as they grieved. At just 42, Tim's passing feels especially devastating. In a career that was still evolving, with more music undoubtedly ahead, the sudden loss leaves a profound void, a legacy that echoes though his life was cut short. Tim Very leaves behind a body of work that will continue to resonate. Every record he helped create carries his fingerprint, subtle shifts in tempo, powerful climaxes, quiet brushstrokes of rhythm. Music has a way of preserving presence. Long after stages are packed up and lights go down, songs remain. In every drumbeat on A Black Mile to the Surface or the thunderous drive of Cope, Tim's spirit lives on. He leaves behind family, bandmates, friends, and a global community of listeners who found comfort, catharsis, and connection through his music. Manchester Orchestra's future remains uncertain as they navigate this loss. But one thing is undeniable: Tim Very was foundational to their sound and identity. His rhythms weren't just accompaniment, they were heartbeat. Remembering the man behind the kit beyond accolades and albums, Tim will be remembered for who he was offstage: a generous collaborator, dedicated father, a loyal friend, a drummer who played with heart in interviews. He often deflected praise, emphasizing teamwork and collective creativity. He never sought the spotlight, even though he stood at the center of it every night. Perhaps that humility is what makes this loss feel so personal to so many. Tim Very represented the best of what music can be: community, expression, shared emotion. Gone, but never silent as fans revisit Manchester Orchestra's catalog in the wake of his passing. There is a new weight to each listen. The crescendos feel heavier, the quiet moments feel more fragile, and the drums, steady, powerful, alive, feel like a conversation continuing across time. Tim Very's story is one of passion and purpose. From a young drummer, inspired by his father, to a cornerstone of one of indie rock's most respected bands, he built a life around rhythm and gave that rhythm to the world. At 42, his journey ended far too soon, but the echo of his work, and the love shared by those who knew him, ensures that his impact will endure. Rest in peace, Tim. Your beat goes on.